Imagine an anthropologist just discovered a skeleton that's 30,000 to 100,000 years old. Now she has to figure out what species the skeleton is. So to do this, she has two lists. One list of features for Neanderthals, another list of features for anatomically modern humans. So now by looking at the features on the skeleton and comparing it to the two lists, she's able to figure out what species the skeleton is. Pretty straightforward. But what happens if this particular skeleton isn't actually one species or the other? What happens if this skeleton is a hybrid? Well, right now we have no way of figuring out if this skeleton is a hybrid from the skeletal remains alone. But we do have DNA evidence that suggests hybrids exist. For example, Europeans and Asians living today have between 1% and 4% of Neanderthal DNA in their genome, which includes pretty much everyone in this room. So we can't identify a skeleton hybrid from skeletal remains alone, but we do know they exist. How do we figure out what a skeleton is a hybrid in the fossil record? And that's the question for my research project. So for me, I'm using baboons as a model for anatomically modern human and Neanderthal hybrids. I'm looking at CT scans of skeletons of two different baboons, the yellow baboon and the olive baboon and their hybrids. By looking at known skeletal hybrids, I'm able to create a list of features that is associated with hybridization. The anthropologist can then take to the field, choose to identify that skeleton as a hybrid. This list of features is composed of anomalies, or abnormalities in the way that the bone develops. These occur because the genes that are in charge of the growth of these bones is different in the hybrids compared to either of the parental species due to inheritance. Now, previous research has looked at external features and found anomalies in two different areas on hybrids: the teeth, or the dentition, and the sutures, or the joints between the bones of the skull. That's weird. So my research is looking at internal features, such as the inner ear and the lateral recess, which is in the nasal cavity, something we would refer to as the sinuses in humans. So internal features are considered to be more stable during development because they are more critical to our survival. You can imagine if there's a problem with the inner ear, there may be a problem with balance, there may be a problem with hearing, which would be very bad for someone trying to survive. So internal structures are really important. But going back to that anthropologist trying to identify a skeleton, now the previous scenario, the anthropologist could only look at two different lists to figure out what species it is. Now with my method, the anthropologist can now figure out if that specific skeleton might also be a hybrid. Thank you.